Close your eyes for a second and listen. Waka, waka, waka. If you grew up in the 1980s, that sound probably takes you somewhere instantly. Maybe it's a noisy arcade packed with glowing machines. Maybe it's a pizza place where the arcade cabinet sat in the corner. Or maybe it's the memory of standing in line with a pocket full of quarters waiting for your turn. And there, on the screen, was a simple yellow circle. No arms, no legs, just a mouth, endlessly eating dots. But somehow, that little character became one of the most famous video game icons in history. It wasn't a soldier, it wasn't a spaceship, it wasn't even a human. It was Pac-Man. And for a brief moment in the early 1980s, Pac-Man didn't just dominate arcades. It took over the entire world. But creating the game itself took months of experimentation. The team wanted something that felt different from every arcade game before it. Instead of shooting enemies, players would navigate a maze. Instead of destroying aliens, they would avoid ghosts. And instead of collecting points through combat, they would earn points by eating pellets scattered across the maze. It sounds simple today, but back in 1980, it was completely fresh. The ghosts themselves were another brilliant idea. Each one had a personality. Blinky chased you aggressively. Pinky tried to ambush you. Inky behaved unpredictably. And Clyde? Well, Clyde just kind of wandered around. Players might not have known the technical details back then, but they could feel it. Each ghost behaved differently, which made every round unpredictable. Then there were the power pellets. When Pac-Man ate one, suddenly the tables turned. The ghosts turned blue and ran away. For a few glorious seconds, the hunted became the hunter, and those moments felt amazing. But Pac-Man's design wasn't just clever, it was also incredibly charming. Bright colors, friendly animations, funny little cutscenes between levels. These intermissions were actually some of the earliest storytelling moments in video game history. Players loved them. Pac-Man felt alive in a way arcade characters hadn't before. When the game launched in Japan in 1980, it quickly caught attention, but no one expected what would happen next. When Pac-Man arrived in the United States later that year, the reaction was explosive. Arcades suddenly had crowds gathering around Pac-Man cabinets. People watched each other play. They cheered when someone escaped the ghosts. They groaned when someone got trapped. And something fascinating started happening. Pac-Man wasn't just attracting the usual arcade crowd. It was bringing in new players, women, families, casual players, people who had never touched an arcade machine before. Suddenly, arcades felt more welcoming, and Pac-Man became a cultural phenomenon almost overnight. By 1982, the numbers were staggering. Pac-Man machines were everywhere: shopping malls, restaurants, bowling alleys, convenience stores. At its peak, Pac-Man generated billions of dollars in quarters. Let that sink in. Billions. From a yellow character eating dots. But the craze didn't stop at arcades. Pac-Man invaded pop culture. There were Pac-Man lunchboxes, Pac-Man cartoons, Pac-Man t-shirts, even a Pac-Man pop song called Pac-Man Fever that actually made it onto the Billboard charts. Kids hummed the Pac-Man sounds. Adults competed for high scores. Everyone seemed to know the game. And for many people, Pac-Man became their very first video game. If you grew up in that era, you probably remember the feeling. Standing at the machine, hands gripping the joystick, trying to plan your route through the maze. Should you go left? Should you grab the power pellet now? Or wait until the ghosts get closer? Those decisions happened in seconds, and every round felt intense. Some players became incredibly skilled. In fact, the perfect Pac-Man score became a legendary challenge. To achieve it, you had to clear every level without missing a single pellet, and eat every possible ghost. It wasn't until 1999 that someone finally achieved the perfect score, nearly 2 decades after the game launched. That alone shows how deep Pac-Man's gameplay really was. But like many huge cultural trends, the Pac-Man craze eventually cooled down. By the mid-1980s, arcades were changing. New types of games appeared: fighting games, racing games, more advanced graphics. Home consoles also started pulling players away from arcades, and Pac-Man slowly stepped out of the spotlight. But here's the amazing part: Pac-Man never really disappeared. While other arcade games faded into history, Pac-Man stayed alive. Sequels appeared, ports arrived on home consoles. Pac-Man showed up on everything from the Atari 2600 to modern smartphones. Even today, you can play Pac-Man almost anywhere, and the character himself became something bigger than just a game. Pac-Man became an icon, right up there with Mario and Sonic. Even people who have never played the game still recognize that yellow shape. That's the kind of cultural impact very few games ever achieve. By the way, if retro gaming stories like this bring back memories for you, take a moment to like the video, share it with a friend who remembers the arcade days, and subscribe to TechVibes for more nostalgic tech and gaming stories. Because the history of gaming is full of incredible moments like this, and Pac-Man is one of the biggest. Looking back today, Pac-Man might seem simple. A yellow character, a maze, 4 ghosts. But sometimes the simplest ideas create the biggest impact. Pac-Man proved that video games didn't need complicated graphics or intense violence to be fun. They just needed great design, great personality, and a little bit of charm. For millions of people, Pac-Man wasn't just a game, it was a memory, a place, a moment in time. It was the glow of arcade screens in dark rooms, the sound of quarters dropping into machines, the thrill of escaping the ghosts with only one pellet left. And even decades later, that little yellow circle is still smiling, still chasing dots, still reminding us of the golden age of arcades. So now I'm curious, do you remember the first time you played Pac-Man? Was it in an arcade, a pizza place, or maybe on an old home console? And what was the highest score you ever reached? Share your memories in the comments. I'd love to hear your Pac-Man stories.